You are listening to the Music Ed Mentor podcast, where we teach music educators how to build, manage, and grow thriving school music programs and have long and happy careers. This is one of those careers episode. As always, I am your host, Elisa Jansen-Jones. This is part 2, or the continuation from our last episode. So if you missed my chat with April Vargo about the side hustle, I highly recommend you go back and listen to that one too. If you're like most music educators, the first check of the contract year is always an exciting time. Did you get a little raise for going up a level, or did you start a new job? Or maybe you went from part-time to full-time, or vice versa. The number on your check determines what you do next. And for many music educators, one salary just isn't enough for the lifestyle we want to have. Or sometimes we may just feel like we have enough time outside the classroom that we can turn it into bonus income. Or in the summer, maybe we just want to make a little extra cash on the side. If that is the case for you, this episode is meant for it. In this episode, I once again bring on April Vargo, who's one of my favorite presenters, speakers, and teachers, who also happens to be an entrepreneur and music educator like myself. In this episode, we're going to talk about second careers or follow-up careers, or just enhancing your own abilities through entrepreneurship. We talk about starting your own business in this episode, or getting out of music education for a career that still lets you do music, but maybe not have to deal with some of the challenges we face in public education. Maybe you just want to have a regular job or something with less regulated hours, or not have to find a sub for. How can you even get started if that sounds like a better lifestyle change for you? I want to make it really clear that my personal mission is to make sure that you feel comfortable in the lifestyle of music education. It is not an easy career, but you can create a thriving life. That's why I wrote the book, The Music Educator's Guide to Thrive. But I also am willing to recognize that sometimes as music teachers, we want to expand our horizons. We want to challenge ourselves. We want to own something that we can't as music teachers in a public school. So whether you're part-time or full-time or all the time or about to be done with this teaching time, there is something in this episode for you. But first, here in the United States, many of us are just getting started in the school year. A lot of teachers are asking the important question, do we give a grade for at-home practice? I've been asking myself this same question, and also the follow-up question, how do we assess students' abilities? Do we take time out of class to do that? Since most students will pad their practice times and parents will corroborate, what's the point? Why don't we just grade entirely on these assessments? Won't that be just as effective motivation for our students? Well, if you're thinking along the same lines, or maybe you're just tired of all the paper and paperwork associated with practice reports, you should look at Smart Music. With Smart Music, you can create assignments for your students, or assessments, if you will, and the students can get on and play. They'll get instant feedback on their performance and be motivated to practice it over and over again until they get it right. It's gamifying practice time at home. Smart Music is flexible and can be used in almost any configuration you imagine to fit your style. Check out their YouTube channel for video testimonials and see how teachers like you are taking advantage of the Smart Music curriculum resources now. While you're online, pop over to smartmusic.com and sign up for your free teacher account. Now, let's talk about making you a little side money, or turning that side hustle into a second career by starting a new business of your own. Here to introduce herself again is April Vargo.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. And I run a virtual school for the performing arts called Placing Act, LLC, where I provide group and private lessons to musicians and actors, also budding entrepreneurs and public speakers. And I do offer some different public speaking opportunities as well. So I have slowly started to expand the business. My students are global. I have students in all 50 states, as well as international students in Canada and South Korea. Oh my gosh, I'm going to miss people, but Australia, New Zealand, and it's growing. So it's been so cool to be able to work with people in a global capacity.
Now that we've been properly introduced, here's our discussion on bonus careers, second careers, side hustles, and ideas for entrepreneurship. All right, so we're going to transition now into talking about what if you want to do more than a side hustle and you want it to be in line with music education. So we've got this great training background experience as music teachers, and then maybe our position's cut, or maybe we decide that we just can't handle kids anymore, which happens, or maybe we're having some health issues. And so we can't do the standing, dancing, moving around, conducting full time either. So whatever our circumstances are, or like for me, I already gave that example that I wanted to stay home with my little kids, and my husband just graduated in accounting. So, and again, this was 10 years ago. I'm old now. All my kids are old now. So, I quit teaching full time so that I could be home with my kids. So my goal was to create something that I could stay home and really be there to raise my family. And so I opened a private lesson studio. So that's actually our first on the list of entrepreneurial / freelance kind of ideas. Private lessons are a great opportunity, especially if you struggle with like the classroom management bit. Having just one kid that you're managing and for only half an hour at a time, and you can charge, whatever the economy can bear in your area. I recently, at the end of last school year, I was like, I do not want to teach private lessons, right? But I have so many people and I'm so experienced in it and I'm pretty good at it, right? And so everybody was like, can I take private lessons? Can I take private lessons? And I was like, okay, well, I was charging $30 a lesson for a half-hour lesson. So I increased my rate, right? So I took it to $80 an hour for private lessons with me. And people are paying it. Because I don't know why they're paying it.
Oh, yes, you do. You're good. I mean, they're not going to pay it if you're not good.
Yeah, well, that's part of it. If you're good at what you do, then charge more. But I really just wanted to have fewer students. So I hope none of their parents are listening. But the parents who do have students with me, they would pay even more than that. But the point is, use your talent to offer private lessons. A lot of teachers do it right after school. A lot do it out of their home. What experience do you have with that, or people that that do that kind of thing?
Well, I know a lot of people who do across the board. Is some of them have opened up studios in their home, like they'll open up a separate space. Some, if the school allows them to use the space in their building, they'll use that. I know a lot of public schools in our area will tell you that you're not allowed to use the public facility to make income outside of your job, your contracted job. So they won't let you use the space unless it's for free. And let's be honest, who wants to teach private lessons for free? I mean, I know a lot of, there's a whole group of people that love that. I personally have bills to pay and I like having a paycheck. So I don't teach for free. But if you do, the school, a lot of times you can use your classroom for free lessons. And online, it's a growing business. And when you started talking about niches earlier, one of the reasons I went online is because I did a lot of research and saw that it is going to be something that's booming. It is a slow progression. In other parts of the world, it's already taken off. In the coasts, it's huge. I live in the Midwest. In the Midwest, we're always the last people to catch on to anything. Like new trends, it's like, oh, look, guys, like sign me up. But online is becoming a growing and a bigger venue for people to take lessons. I do know when you said about pricing, one of the nice things that I have noticed is if you tend to be middle to higher price point, you do weed out your less serious students. So some of the students who maybe, and maybe it's terrible to say, but we all have those whose parents just want a half an hour free without their kid. So they drop the kid off and the kid is like, banging their head on the piano or screaming. And it's like, why are you here? You're clearly not interested in this. And there's a place, everybody needs to have some way to express themselves. However, if you don't really want to deal with those types of children, raising your prices will absolutely get you more of a serious student. And also making sure that you have policies in place that say, these are my expectations, and this is what's going to happen if you study with me. The less serious ones are going to say, I'm not really interested in that. And then again, that just gets you a different type of person.
Yeah. I think that a lot of teachers struggle with that concept, that they feel like they're hurting the student by charging more. But I try and look at it the other way, that you're actually helping them by charging more, because it does make them more serious. I remember when I first had to take private lessons and pay for them myself in college. And so I asked, who's the very best French horn teacher in the Valley? Like, I asked all my little French horn playing friends, and they said, well, Larry Lowe at BYU. And I wasn't currently attending BYU, so I had to see if he would, teach me in his off contract time and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure he charged me an arm and leg and probably half my face too. And because it was quite expensive for me to afford those lessons. But when he said practice 3 hours a day, you know how much I practiced?
3 hours a day?
I practiced 3 hours a day, because I was not going to be throwing my money at a teacher and not do what he said. So, and I do the same approach with my business consulting clients, right? I'm like, if you are really serious, then this is your investment. Like, you're going to pay this money, not because I need the money, but because you need the commitment. Like, you need to, I found that if I don't charge people, like, people, when they get things for free or for cheap, sorry, we're totally going off on this other subject, but it's important for people to understand, because as music teachers, we're so charitable. We're so giving, like, we give so much of ourselves, and we think we don't want to hurt our students by charging too much. But truly, it does make them have to commit. I have this good friend who's a fabulous horn player, fabulous award-winning, like, teacher and horn player. And I ask him how much he charges for lessons. He charges half of what I do, right? And I am not a professional horn player, right? And he's like, well, I want everybody to have access. And in my mind, it's like, if they really want it, they will find the way to pay for it.
And that's very true. And you want the person who puts their energy and time into it too. Because if you're the one that has to push the person all the time, they're not really growing. And are they really interested in this? Even just as a hobby, even if they're saying, I don't want to do this professionally, what about it can't be fun to keep working on the same song every week, because you're never progressing. So it's like, for your sheer enjoyment, you need to put some time into this too, so that you can continue to grow your skills.
Yeah, totally. So anyway, that kind of leads us into the next couple things. Consulting and coaching and stuff like that. What do you think?
I personally have started slowly getting into consulting and coaching. One of the things I get approached with is people asking for confidence consulting or confidence coaching, is because they feel like they need I've got all these ideas, but I don't know how to exercise them, or how to put myself out there, or I'm actually really self-conscious and I don't like the way I look, I don't like the way I sound, and I don't like whatever. So it's just the idea of taking somebody and building them up and basically showing all of the things that they have that's so amazing about them, and being like, you have all the tools, you just gotta you gotta use them. So I've started getting into that side as well. And as a performer, all of us, I think, need to have a certain amount of confidence to be able to put ourselves out there. And as a business owner as well, it's scary at first, but you realize, well, I chose this, I got this. So having that certain level of confidence really helps you to succeed. And I think consulting in whatever you're passionate about or whatever you're strong, and like you had said, business consulting, something that you know, and being able to give that knowledge. And a lot of times it's just about taking somebody and helping them find something about themselves that they already know, kind of unlock their tools. And coaching, the same thing, is taking the raw talent or the raw ability they come to you at and say, how do we polish this up and get this out so people can see it?
Yeah, sometimes just like with students, they just need the next step. And if you have a large enough toolbox, which a lot of music teachers do, to be able to read what the student is kind of thinking, right, through their body language and through their face and through their words, and then being able to pull something out of your toolbox that works for them and lights that little fire or flips that little switch to help them. And I love that because you really are still helping people using your skills, but on a completely different level.
It is. And it's kind of a nice, I almost want to say break too, like in your day. You know what I mean? It's something different that adds variety to your day. So you're not teaching the same material. You're actually getting to interact with somebody. And you really do feel like you're making a difference. I mean, it's really rewarding in that sense as well.
I have started offering coaching for music teachers, by the way. So if you go to professionalmusiceducator.com, you can actually sign up for a coaching session with me. It's significantly cheaper than my business consulting. I'm just going to throw that out there right after I go you need to charge people. Music teachers is my peeps. And so anyway, okay. So blogging, writing reviews.
Blogging is fantastic. It's a way to get your ideas out there and you can monetize it, or it's just a way it's great marketing as well. So if you do have a business or you do have ideas, using a blog to get the word out to people is important. When I first opened my business, one of the people I talked to is a friend of mine who was in marketing, who told me that it was time for me to open up a little bit more and allow people to see who I was personally. And I know that in the classroom, we're kind of told to keep our personal lives very close and near and dear to us and, let students in, but within a distance. So that was really difficult for me personally to be like, well, you're not in the classroom anymore, lady, open yourself up. And I was like, oh, this is weird. I've been taught the last how many years not to do this. So it was a very eye-opening experience. And I did a lot of that through my blogs. And I really got into writing and I loved it. I know some people that write reviews. They actually write reviews sometimes for musical artists. They'll go to different venues. They'll go to concerts, performances, community theater productions. And then some people that actually have turned it into travel blogs. They go places and they document their trip. They document different restaurants they've gone to, writing reviews, hotels, Airbnbs, bed and breakfast, all that stuff. So again, that kind of combines both your love for music and a hobby that you can put together as well.
I actually get paid to write magazine articles for one of my local magazines too. It's certainly not a full-time pay, but I can submit articles and it works because my husband is a freelance photographer. So we come up with an article idea. I write up 500 words and he takes the photos and we submit it and we get a little paycheck for that. So,
well, you know what though? The cool thing is, I will say, after kind of leaving the conventional classroom setting and going out on your own, you do start realizing all of the other gigs that are available to you and job opportunities. And it kind of opens up things that you've always maybe been good at or been interested in. And it's like, oh, let's try it. And before you know it, you're like, I am a writer. I'm good at this. And there's so many more jobs you end up doing and careers you get to pursue. And that's been something that has been one of my favorite things personally.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So let's talk about some of these alternative industries. So there's the what we'll call live performance industry, right? So maybe you have a gig band, maybe you become a conductor, play in a symphony, you can play in a professional symphony or orchestra.
Right. Sing in a choir. Even I know some churches pay church musicians to sing, or pianists, organists, if you're going to be their worship leader.
Yeah, totally. So think of it as live music performance. If you're really good at that kind of thing, there's lots and lots of opportunities out there for you. And then recording music or music recordings.
And that's really good too if you're more on the tech side of things. And people are opening recording studios in their house now, in their basement. And if you have a computer and the right software, and it's gotten a lot easier to open a lot of these things instead of having to have the big building and the big space. So, or you could even just freelance and go to those big buildings and those big spaces if you're somebody who has that knowledge.
Yeah, one of the things that I've done a lot in the summer too is attended these live music festivals, not as an attendee, but I would help with sound because my good friend has all this sound gear and a sound company, and he does all these live festivals, and I just go and sit backstage and, I help set up the microphones in between bands, and then I roll cable at the end. I have a master's degree in business. I don't know if you know this, and I roll cable so that I can be, but I'm really good at rolling cable. I'm just saying. But that's an option too, right? If you're like good at sound, there are sound rental companies all over. The live music scene, especially outdoor festivals and concerts in the summer, is huge. And then look, you get paid to attend these awesome concerts. You can apply your skills as a sound mixer because you're used to hearing how balance and blend should be, right? Let's look at another industry, music retail.
I know it's very extensive. I know there's a lot of different ways to get involved. I know when I was in college, they actually used to have people working in the music retail industry come and talk to us. And a lot of them were former music teachers who said, yeah, it just wasn't for me. So I decided to go on this side of the spectrum.
I think that most of the people in the music retail industry have some kind of background in music education. But you could work for any of the music publishers, any of the music manufacturers. There's music stores all over the country. There's software developers. If you go to the NAM website, that's the National Association of Music Merchants. They also have the NAM Foundation, which gives money to school music programs. So just a heads up on that. But anyway, NAM, if you just look on there and you're like, oh my gosh, I've heard of Fender. I wonder if they have any jobs and are hiring. They hire educational reps all the time. So you're able to use that educational background and bring that to the field and get to meet with amazing performing artists, and just the opportunities in music retail are fantastic. So I can speak to that because that was my career before getting into music education. So,
oh, that's really cool.
I know, right?
I didn't know that.
Probably contributed to that whole business background kind of thing too.
I was going to say that makes sense. That goes hand in hand.
I don't know how much you know about nonprofits, April. What do you know?
Well, I know that a lot of times nonprofits they are available for schools to partnerships in schools, and a lot of times they have helped people to get instruments, to get funding, to get music, music itself, sheet music, anything that is needed for the classroom. Yeah. And I know that nonprofits themselves, that's basically the way they set themselves up for tax purposes. And I know a certain amount financially has to be spent every year on different programs. So they have to allot some of their monies towards other organizations to help other people.
So I'll break it down really easy for you. So nonprofits are mission-based rather than product-based or service-based, okay? So every nonprofit kind of exists for a certain mission. So we were just talking about the NAM Foundation. So they exist for the mission of getting musical instruments into schools, right? Mm-hmm. And so their financial budget, it doesn't mean that they aren't allowed to make profits. It's that their profits go toward a mission. And the mission isn't just to, pad the pockets of the owner, right? So they have basically mission expenses, so things that are helping them fulfill their reason for existence, right? And then they have administrative expenses, which is how they run the programs, right? So like the American Red Cross, their programs are, hospitality and help for people in need, and they pay their administrators a small percentage of that, but the majority of the money goes to their mission. So that's kind of how nonprofits are broken up. And so if you are really mission kind of driven, then getting involved in a nonprofit is a great way to go. And starting a nonprofit is a great way to go. If you find that there's a need in your community for something, you can create that mission and create that nonprofit to help make that thing not a problem anymore. Some of the nonprofits that I've been involved in is our local district foundation, which raised money for district projects that outside of the regular district budget. So we were kind of like the PTA, but for the district, right? And
very nice.
I know, right? And then I was the board president for our local trails association. So our goal was to bring together all the different trail users, and that was all financed through government grants and stuff like that. And then the nonprofit that I'm currently volunteering with, because I'm only allowed to be on one nonprofit at a time, otherwise I'd be on like 10, right? Is our local community band actually is a nonprofit. So they're everywhere, and you can. And so anyway, if you're really into like the service thing, a nonprofit's a great way to go because you're going to help fulfill some mission.
That's fantastic.
Now, don't you feel smarter?
I do.
I know too much for my own good.
Hey, that's a good place to be. Well, the one thing that I know I find myself doing a lot of in like my evening, my free time, I'm doing it now this summer and I love it, is I direct live theater. So community theater. And I love directing theater. It's one of my favorite things to do. And this summer, I'm actually closing this weekend, and it's so crazy, Sleeping Beauty, the musical. And it's been a totally different adaptation of Disney and the Grimm's version. It's like a hybrid, and it's contemporary. And it's so cool because the people that come out are all community members. And especially for the summer, it's something for them to participate in, something for them to do. And they revamped it this summer. And this is my first time working with this particular organization. And they didn't know. They're like, April, I can't tell you how many people are going to audition. It could be, you could get like 5, we could get a lot, I don't know. And we got 75 people that came through the door to audition. I know.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
So cool. So it has been such a fun summer, but getting to do music and theater, and we brought in a choreographer because I am not a dancer to do dance. And it has just been the best. So if you have any interest in theater, that is definitely something to look into too, is your local community organizations, because the people are they're a blast. They're so fun.
Yeah. And the music camp scene is huge right now too. My kids have been to 3 music camps this summer, right? And so if that's something you're passionate about, like maybe you don't want to, or maybe you just went to part-time, or who knows your situation, but you're like, yeah, okay, in the summer I could host a music camp for a weekend or a week, and you partner with your local dormitory facility, whether that's a university or college or whatever, and you can just bring in some experts and teach for a few days and make just as much as you would in a year of music teaching over a weekend if you're smart about it. So no matter what you're going to do, let's talk about the smart way to go about doing it, because one of the big mistakes you can make is throwing a lot of money to start your own thing without knowing that it's going to work. So doing some kind of product testing just to make sure that it's going to happen. So there's just like with anything else, there's 3 steps to it. You need to do some assessment. What do you have resource-wise that you can already use, right? And I'd like to think as music teachers, we're really resourceful already, most of us. And once you've done that, then do some assessment about who your competition is, and that will help you identify that niche of where you should be. If you want to make quilts and you find that everybody in your town is making quilts, you go to the local farmer's market and there's like 10 different quilt booths, then you have a choice. You can go, okay, well, maybe quilts isn't like a thing, but maybe quilted tapestries is, or, nobody's doing that. Or maybe you can, again, do it better, faster, or cheaper than other people. And that will help you kind of niche out too. So anyway, the assessment bit, I think, is something that people forget. They just hop into the plan, right? They're like, well, I know what I want to do, but you don't know if it's going to be successful if you don't do the assessment and come up with a strategic approach to it, which is, again, that niche and who are you going to be selling it to and how are you going to be doing it differently.
No, that's really important. That was one of the things that I started before I even started the business was I did a business plan, which actually forced you to go through all of those ideas. You had to identify your competition. You had to identify the market, how much it could go for, projections for the future, all these different things. And it was something that I realized, wow, there's a lot that I didn't even think about before I started this. And like I said, I hadn't even invested any money at this point because I was like, well, I need to figure out exactly what I'm doing. And that was probably one of the smartest things I did. And since I've started, you realize that your business changes and organically grows to who you are and what your needs and the needs of your customers are. But it is really important to have that first base.
Right. So don't jump to implementing. Don't jump to making a plan. Start with that basic assessment and then go into a plan and then go into how you're going to implement it and lay it out on a timeline and stuff like that. So really take the time to analyze and do some research and think strategically. Now, how did you set yourself up legally when you started your own business?
Well, I actually went through Legalzoom because I'm not a lawyer. And I don't claim to be. So I wanted to make sure that I was doing everything legally and by the books and that I was personally protected as well. I had talked to some other entrepreneurs and at first I was like, I'm going to do a sole prop. But some people said, do the LLC because then you have that definite separation between yourself and your business. And you don't want anything to happen, but if anything should happen, then at least your business is separate from your personal assets. So I did go with the LLC setup, and going through LegalZoom was so easy. It went through every step for you, explained every possible scenario, and then also at the end gave you things that you might have to check out. So there were maybe different licenses depending on what it is that you're doing that you might need. Now, for what I was doing, I did contact all of those different people and I was told, oh no, you don't actually need that because that would be if you have a brick and mortar or if you're giving a certification saying, guess what, you just graduated high school or something like that. But since I'm not a charter school that's actually giving you a diploma, I didn't need to do a lot of those extra licensing. So that was really nice too, because they can get expensive if you all of a sudden do all these licenses that you don't need. And that's the other thing, is just finding out what it is that you actually need and what it is you don't. But protecting yourself, I think, is a lot of what people don't do. And that's something that can come to bite you in the booty.
Figure out those different options before you kind of take the next step. Because you really don't want to be throwing a lot of money at something if, again, it's not going to work or if you're going to have some kind of legal issue with it, because that's just a hassle and a stress and not something you really want to deal with. What about policies and procedures? How'd you come up with those for your business?
Well, a lot of them actually were things that over the last 10 years in the classroom, I had developed. I realized that, for simple things like charging, I noticed people don't like to pay. And as far as if you let them pay per month or per lesson, oh, I forgot my check, I'll just bring it next week. Or, oh, I got you, I'll pay twice next time. Or, you know what, I went out of town, so I'm just not going to pay you. You're like, wait a second, I'm here though, and you never told me you're out of town. So one of the things that I started doing was you have to pay in advance before you can even have a lesson with me. So I actually will not teach you until I get paid. So I offer two options for people. They can either do a pay-as-you-go, where you want to set up one lesson at a time. Maybe you're very busy and you can't commit to a whole month. Then, you can call me, you can set it up. If I have availability, we'll go from there. Or you can do a month package. And then you get that same day and time every month. And that has worked amazingly. And I also have a very different makeup policy. So if you are sick or you're a no-show, then I don't do traditional makeups. I actually have you record your lesson, whatever you were supposed to do, whatever you're supposed to practice for that week, send it to me. I will send you all the feedback of what to continue to practice for your next lesson.
That's really smart. That's really smart.
I don't do reschedules because, you end up with, you'll spend all your time rescheduling lessons. And I found people take it seriously now when they know that they can't cancel, as far as they can, but then it's on them to record and send it to you.
Right.
So those were some things that I ended up just doing by trial and error.
Well, I feel like we're kind of the same way as classroom music teachers. You just got to walk through step by step what you want them to do, right? So when they first come in, what do you want them to do? What do you want them to understand? What do you want them to know? What do you want them to remember? How are they going to do so? That kind of stuff. So if you can kind of walk them through it. I'm actually redeveloping right now my business consulting site because I've decided that I am immensely more valuable now than I was 3 years ago when I first built it. So I actually have a procedure where they have to apply to work with me. Like they have to fill out an application to even get my time, right?
I've seen that more and more, actually. I've seen a lot of people do that.
Yeah, and it used to be, give me a call, we'll sit down and we can talk. And then I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to talk to you for 2 hours, especially because, first of all, I'd be giving it away for free, which I don't need to do anymore. My portfolio is pretty substantial at this point, right? And also, then what do? We talked about this. When it's free, they don't care as much, right?
Right.
And so now it's like you have to at least jump through a few hoops to get on a phone call.
Which is really important. And that's one thing I actually don't give out either, is I don't give out my phone number because I don't like the idea of, now people text you, they call you all day long, and my phone would literally be blowing up. So you get my email address, and then I can reach out to you when I have availability. So it's kind of, they have to request a lesson time with me, and then I'll work with them, but I don't give out my phone number.
And I love that we already talked about how to charge and how to have a way to collect money. And you said you collect online. You have like an online payment gateway and stuff.
Right. Everything I do it's all via PayPal. So, and it's all set up through my website. So it's a one-stop shop. You go to the website, you can click on whatever package you want, and then you pay right there. So there's no checks, there's no waiting for something. And especially because my students are global, waiting for something to come in the mail, depending on where you live, snail mail can take a very long time. And, checks getting lost in the mail, or, I sent it, and things like that. Now 100% it's in your account, you have it, and they also know on the consumer's end that you have it. So now they can kind of rest easy knowing that they don't have something just sitting out there in the mail either, because it kind of freaks a lot of people out anymore.
But even if you don't want to use PayPal, maybe you don't want to have a PayPal account, or for whatever reason, you can actually set up your own WordPress website and use WooCommerce and use Stripe fulfillment. Okay, maybe I'm getting off the rails here. I forget that not everybody has the the website development background that unfortunately I have had to develop. So what do you use for your website, by the way?
I use Bandzoogle. And I did a lot of research, part of our research of website hosts. And I'm not a coder. I don't know how to code. And part of me said, I could learn. But again, where do I want to put my time? In coding or in, and if I had that background, that would be awesome. So one of the things I noticed is Bandzoogle was a click and drop. So you can design your entire website. But it's basically, they give you a lot of the tools in order to do it. And then they actually have already built-in functions. So a lot of things are already integrated. You can have a store, which already has the PayPal integrated, and you can have video capabilities. And so it can be as interactive or as just basic as you want it to be. And they do all the updates for you. So that's something that I don't have to go in and constantly update and make sure that all of the programs are running with whatever.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's been really nice.
And there are lots of those too, Squarespace and Wix and Weebly. They're all these, drag and drop kind of builders. So just finding one that has an interface, I think, that works for your brain. WordPress is not for everyone.
Well, and that's what I thought I was going to go with. I was like, I'm going to do WordPress. And then when I read that I had to, know a little bit more than I did, I was like, I don't know.
It's massive, the amount that you have to know for WordPress. And if you ask anybody who's built a website before, they'll probably point you toward WordPress, right? Because there's so many options. But for somebody who has never built their own website before, I wouldn't recommend it unless you're willing to dedicate like 2 years of time to get used to it and understand how it all works and so
well, that could be a full-time job in and of itself right there.
Yeah, exactly. So if it's your first website, get like something pre-made like that.
And you can still customize it so it feels like you, which is nice.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at your website while we were talking. So great job.
Excellent. Thank you. I actually just kind of revamped it too. So just in time.
Nice. Cool. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on today about being the music teacher entrepreneur?
I think we've pretty much covered everything, but I guess I would say follow your passion, do what makes you happy. Because at the end of the day, if you're happy, everyone else around you is happy as well. And then you feel fulfilled. And as weird as it sounds, being personally fulfilled is super important. And that helps even in your work. I think it shows through.
I totally agree. Do what makes you happy. Do what you're passionate about. And then you'll never have that issue of work-life balance because work will be play. Work will be fun.
Well, and it's true. And it integrates into every part of your life, but it ends up like I had one of my students go, "Oh, when's your summer break?" And I said, "Honey, I don't have a summer break anymore because I don't, I work all year long." "Oh God, that must suck." I said, "No, I love it because I have fun all the time. I don't have that, oh God, school is starting. Like I don't have any of that anxiety or apprehension. I'm just like, I love it because if I want to go on vacation, I tell my students in advance that I go on vacation and, I don't have to, it's beautiful. It's very nice.
You've created an amazing life for yourself and a really great lifestyle. So that's just wonderful. You're such a great inspiration and you're so adorable.
Oh, stop it. Thank you.
Cool. So if we want to learn more about you, it's playsingact.com, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on and letting me record your wonderful ideas. And hopefully people have some great ideas if they want to start a side hustle or if they want to start something a little more substantial with their own business as well. And now we're going to have to reschedule to do another whole episode about imposter syndrome and building up your confidence.
That would be awesome.
I think we could really, really use that right around Christmas time. I do hope that you've gleaned some great ideas from this episode and the one before, especially if you've been thinking about enhancing your financial situation with a little side gig or startup. If you have a great business or side hustle idea and you want someone to help you vet it, I'm here for you. You can learn more on my blog, professionalmusiceducator.com. You can also find links to all of the podcast episodes, show notes there on professionalmusiceducator.com or on the Smart Music blog. And you'll definitely want to check out the show notes for this episode, which is episode 31, because we're giving you a free download with a big list of ideas for side hustles or second careers. Go grab your copy now at smartmusic.com/blog and search for episode 31. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Give us that sweet, sweet 5-star rating and tell a friend or two. Help us to support music educators all over the world. And if helping music educators all over the world is your kind of thing, perhaps you might be interested in being a presenter at the 2019 International Music Education Summit. The call for proposals has gone out, and if you're even thinking about it, then just do it. The 2018 summit was crazy awesome success, and 2019 is looking like it will be a landmark event in music education. Whether you become a presenter or just opt to attend all of the fabulous educational sessions, you'll want to be a part of it. As a presenter, not only will you be able to help music educators by teaching a session or workshop, but you can also do it right from home. You can also attend all of the sessions because as a presenter, your registration for the conference is 100% free. You also get all access to the online networking space, the Teachers Lounge, and admission to all of the live streamed performances. Go to musicedsummit.org to submit your session proposal today. I'll be back with you again in a couple of weeks. So until then, keep smiling and keep teaching on.